yeah, I always wanted to come back, and now that my kids are grown and they don't need me like they did, before.
Do your kids know that you don't have a home here?
I don't know. But I don't plan on being homeless forever.
So the homelessness in San Francisco is out of control. And I would say the majority of people that are homeless are not homeless. They're mentally ill / drug addicts.
This is a question you need to be asking. Why do the police let it go on right in front of them? Is it because of that bill that they passed? It made everything a misdemeanor? Even heroin, simple possession of meth and heroin are misdemeanors now? So it's not worth the cops' time. The Supreme Court gave a ruling that the overcrowding in the California prisons was cruel and unusual punishment, and they threatened to cut off the Fed dollar if they didn't do something about it. So that's why they're not arresting everybody anymore. They can't put them all in prison because they got a Supreme Court ruling against them that called it cruel and unusual punishment, how crowded the prisons were.
The whole goal of Prop 47 had multiple aspects to it. The goal was to be more helpful to society, helpful to the homeless issue, helpful to the police departments and the court system. But as we saw, that's a total failure at this point. Connection between those who are homeless and drug abusers, it has a direct correlation in a sense. These who are homeless and in possession of drugs are not going to be prosecuted and taken out of the homeless realm and thrown into jail as long as what they possess is less than $950. The intention was to help, of course, but what it really wound up doing is it made San Francisco more attractive for those who are both homeless and those who are drug addicts to move here. We're now finding that homelessness is increasing, drug addiction is increasing, and the number of people here, the numbers are increasing as well.
Hey, I'm killing you, okay? You. She homeless every day. The window.
She spits on it.
Yes, every day.
And you have to clean it up.
Yes.
What's happened is that over the years, before homelessness was the crisis that we're having now, is that San Francisco was always looked at as being a fun, musical, free, welcoming of people from all over the world. But now, as we see that the city has very much changed, at what point do the locals here just say, we've had enough?
Other cities stick them on buses and send them here. And now this is like a homeless camp.
What happens is they're building too many condominiums and kicking the people out.
High cost of living, which also pushes out affordable housing initiatives, which also pushes out homeless shelters because those are like the first thing to go.
Quality of life laws have to be enforced. Urinating on the street, defecating, sleeping, shooting heroin on the street should be illegal.
While some locals are clearly frustrated with the homeless crisis, others seem to be either desensitized or completely heartbroken.
I mean, I see it every day. Where I work in Berkeley, there's a semi-permanent camp right on the block where they'll get cleared out every few weeks and they come back. It's something that's around and that I see every day.
I mean, it's hard to get the logic on it if some of the economic indicators say in general we're doing better, and yet just to walk down the street, clearly that's not the case for a lot of folks. Just right now, where we are walking from City Hall, if I walk one block that way, I move from seeing professionals to seeing 10 people in a row actively cooking meth and shooting up, sleeping either in tents or just crashed out on the sidewalk. And the juxtaposition of Union Square and like elite economic shops on one end government wealth on the other end. It just doesn't seem fathomable the way that the reality is. How do I engage with fellow members of my city without feeling like I'm looking at them to see what they are?
It does appear to be growing. It's a complex system issue. One perspective is just the economic structure of capitalism right now is increasing the division between the wealthy and the poor. We're seeing it here in San Francisco, one of the wealthiest cities in America.
So there's a few different schools of thought, but one of them specifically goes back to the early 1960s. That was when the last Republican mayor's administration finished up and voted in a Democratic mayor, which has been the situation all the way till today. And so before this, in 1964 or so, we've had a whole string of Republican conservative mayorships. Then after that, when the Democrats were voted in, we had the poverty, homeless, everything as you see, and that has never changed. Unless there's a fundamental change in getting more conservative, more centrist candidates elected to office, elected to the mayorship, elected to the city council or board of supervisors, there's not going to be a change.
And the latest change the local government has come up with is an interesting one, to say the least. The latest homeless count in San Francisco reached over 8,000 people. And they say about 35% of unsheltered homeless citizens live in vehicles. While the number can't be precise, there's a good chance it's far beyond 30.
By some of the experiments with guaranteed income. You know, sometimes I wonder how much both private and government money is spent on paying people to come up with solutions and provide services and intakes and referrals. If somebody actually had a meaningful amount of money that wasn't the kind of money that lets me imagine getting through the next few days. What if somebody had $10,000 and could imagine making a deposit and could imagine setting up with some long-term health care or mental health? Clearly, the mediating of services can't be the only thing.
Allowing the rich to get richer and never stop them. It's just if they don't stop the rent control, that they let the landlords increase their rent as much as they can, they'll continue to do that. And one day I'm going to be in the streets too.
I don't think there is one answer because I don't think it's one problem. A portion of the homeless community, which are people that are working in and around the area that just can't afford to live someplace. The answer to that isn't the same answer as the people who have been failed by our mental health system. There's a lot of work to be done in a lot of places.
Policies that the government is enforcing and promoting is the problem with homelessness. The more you give homeless people to try and help them, the byproduct of that is more homeless people and more people trying to take advantage of this, and probably more businesses that are nonprofit trying to help popping up, and their whole intention is to keep more people in this cycle because they're getting money for it. At some point, people have to realize you just can't be only nice and only try and help, which you should, but there has to be consequences. Has to be.